It takes a lot of faith to say thank you for coming before I've said anything. So if after the service he still says that, that's okay. Good. It is good to be with you. It's my second or third time to be with you, and I do work with Southern Africa Bible College, a ministry that you've been involved with. And again, as Jeff said, you've been involved with Benedict Little for quite some time. I know he's been here a few times. And I would love to spend this whole 2 hours that we have in front of us talking about that. What's the laughter for? I don't get it. No, I know, that's an old joke. I'm not going to spend 2 hours. We'll get through this as quickly as possible. I would love to talk about Southern Africa Bible College, or SABS, that whole time. But this is Mission Sunday, right? Evangelism Sunday. And so what I want to do today is I do want to talk a little bit about the college and how you can be involved. But more importantly, I want to talk about evangelism and missions and how you can be involved. So you might hear about Southern Africa Bible College. You might have been in the class and said, yeah, that sounds pretty good, but that's not really where my heart is. You might be in Costa Rica. You might have your heart set on something else that you want to be part of. The challenge, the encouragement today is just to be involved, is to do something. And we're going to talk about evangelism from the story of Jehoshaphat. So turn to 2 Chronicles chapter 21. That's where we'll spend our time. But this morning, I'm talking really about two kinds of problems in the world. We'll discuss those in a minute, but I believe that there are two kinds of problems in the world, but the solution is the same. The solution is from Romans 1:16. I'm not ashamed of the gospel, for it is the power of God for the salvation of everyone who believes, first for the Jew, then for the Gentile. Whatever problems we have in the world, there is one solution: the gospel of Jesus Christ. And so, the two different kinds of problems. One I call the Southern Africa problem. It's not peculiar to Southern Africa. There's other places that face this problem as well. But the problem that we face in Southern Africa is that people are receptive to the gospel. Why is that a problem? It's a problem because if we don't have evangelists and teachers out reaching the lost, we leave fruit to ripen and die on the vine, to search for meaning in something else other than the gospel of Jesus Christ. And so that is a problem. And so what is the solution to this problem? Well, we need to invest in places where people are receptive to the gospel. You and I, here in the U.S., that have possibly, most likely, an excess of funds, need to find ways to invest in places where people are receptive. Might be Southern Africa, might be China. One of the places where Christianity is growing and we need to figure out a way to get in there is Iran. One of the places where Christianity is growing is among the refugees that come into Greece from northern Africa. We need to find places where people are receptive and invest in those places. Be part of that. Now, I think I've got a video just real quick, and I don't know if it's going to play or not, so we'll see. Oh, let me do this again. Can you hit play on that? I'll go back one. Here we go. I showed that in Bible class, and I wanted to make sure everyone saw it, because this is a congregation that has a couple of our graduates working as full-time evangelists and has grown quite a bit in the last few years. And I didn't realize the gravity of the situation until I went to the congregation, and there were 150 kids in Bible class spread all across the church property. And my message to you is this, that you didn't teach them how to sing that song. But because you support the college and supported those students while they were in school, you're part of the reason they know it. This is the result of your investment in Southern Africa Bible College. So thank you for investing in mission efforts around the world. You need to know that your mission efforts, the things that you invested, the things that you're going to be giving to, pledging to this morning, are making an impact, and you're getting a good return for the money that's invested. Well, that's the Southern Africa problem. The other problem that we face is the American problem. And the American problem to me is demonstrated by this picture. It's where people don't seem to be receptive to the gospel here in the U.S. Now, I'm not going to say they're not receptive to the gospel. I'm going to say it's more difficult. And I'm going to say that I firmly believe that in the years to come, the people here in the U.S. will be receptive to the gospel again. Why is that? It's because you and I are going to work in our families, our neighborhoods, and our communities to cultivate the soil for the gospel. I like to use this story when I talk about this, and so we talk about people not being receptive to the gospel in the U.S., but I sit next to and worship with a couple at Memorial who, before an elder from the Katy Church of Christ talked to them about studying the Bible, he was seeking enlightenment in Buddha, and she was going to a Unitarian church, and they were living together. And somebody said, "You want to study the Bible?" I might have said to myself when I met them, "Oh, they're not interested in the gospel." But somebody didn't say that. Somebody said, "Let's study the Bible." And they said yes, and today they're raising their two beautiful kids in the church. Because there are people out here in our communities that it might not look like it with our eyes, our physical eyes, but they are receptive to the gospel. They are seeking salvation. And we have that message in the gospel of Jesus Christ. So we're going to work in our families and neighborhoods and communities to cultivate the soil for the gospel. So here's where we come to Jehoshaphat in 2 Chronicles chapter 20. Sorry, I said 21. 2 Chronicles chapter 20. So Jehoshaphat is king in Jerusalem. Okay? When you think about Judah and Jerusalem at this time, don't think about David. David was almost a couple of hundred years before this. And David was a mighty king and warrior who expanded the boundaries of Israel. This is not that Jerusalem. And when you think about Jerusalem at this time, don't think about the Jerusalem of Solomon. Because Solomon was a man of great wisdom, and people streamed to Israel to learn from him. And it was a time of great peace and great building. This is not that Jerusalem. After Solomon died, the kingdom was divided in the northern kingdom of Israel with Samaria as the capital and the one tribe of Judah and Benjamin together in the southern kingdom with the capital city of Jerusalem. And they faced onslaught from all sides, even fighting with Israel sometimes, their brothers, and they would always be battling, and there were some good kings that would lead the people to God, and there were some bad kings that would turn people away from God. And Jehoshaphat was one of those good kings where he tried to do what's right, and he fortified cities around the country so that they would be prepared for battle and wouldn't be as susceptible to invasion. But in 2 Chronicles chapter 20, let's set the stage. After this, the Moabites, verse 1, after this, the Moabites, Ammonites, with some of the Meunites, came to wage war against Jehoshaphat. Some people came and told Jehoshaphat, "A vast army is coming against you from Edom, the other side of the Dead Sea. It's already in Hazazon Tamar, that is in Gedi, which means it's a couple of days away. It's really close." Alarmed, Jehoshaphat resolved to inquire of the Lord, and he proclaimed a fast for all Judah. And the people of Judah came together to seek help from the Lord. Indeed, they came from every town in Judah to seek him. Now, I don't know what you would do if you were Jehoshaphat, king in Jerusalem, when you get the message that not one, not two, but three armies are coming against you. you've been making plans for this. You fortified these cities. I think I would be going, okay, here's where the army needs to be. We're going to put our soldier over here. We're going to fortify this city some more. We are prepared for this. But Jehoshaphat doesn't do that. Jehoshaphat, knowing this is a life and death situation, knowing that his army needs to be well-fed and nurtured, brings everyone together at the temple, and they pray about it. This is an urgent matter of life and death, and everyone comes together. And notice who it is? It's young and old. It's women and children. They didn't go, well, I don't think the kids are going to be really interested in this. They might be bored by this. Teenagers, they can go off. No, this is life and death. We're going to come together. This is important. Now, you're saying, what does this have to do with evangelism? Well, they were fighting an enemy that was very real. It was made up of men and armies. In evangelism, we're fighting a spiritual battle, not against people, not against the people that you come into contact with. We're fighting a battle against the ruler of the kingdom of the air, against Satan himself. When we go out into this world and talk about spreading the gospel, taking the gospel to people, we are fighting a battle against Satan, not against people. And I think we can use the responses that Jehoshaphat has here to give us some wisdom when we talk about evangelism. So, the first thing I want you to consider is this. Do you have an urgency when it comes to salvation? Hear me? First and foremost, do you have an urgency when it comes to your own salvation? Or are you here this morning going, I don't really know why I'm here. I'm here maybe for my parents. I'm here maybe for my kids. I'm here just because this is what I'm supposed to do. It doesn't have anything to do with salvation. Are you here because you understand the true life and death situation that you're in? And that is eternal life, eternal salvation. Now, if you have that urgency for your own salvation, the question on Evangelism Sunday, Mission Sunday, is do you have that urgency for anyone else's? We need to understand the urgent life and death situation in which we're involved. Our salvation, the salvation of the people that are around us. And Jehoshaphat says, we're facing a life and death situation. We better come together. So he has this urgency about it. And the next thing he does is he prays. So he's got all the people together there in the temple, and he prays. And I think we can learn something from his prayer. Look at what he prays for. I'm just going to point out 3 things. By the way, I don't think a sermon's there to give you all the information. Okay? My encouragement to you is to go home this afternoon and read the rest of Jehoshaphat's life. It's not going to take you long. Just supplement what we talk about in here with Jehoshaphat's life. There's lots of lessons that we can learn from him and his decisions. But he stands up in the temple and he prays. The first thing he prays for is this. He said, Lord, the God of our ancestors, are you not the God who is in heaven? You rule over the kingdoms of the nations. Power and might are in your hand, and no one can withstand you. Now remember the situation that he's in. He's standing in a temple with all his people scared to death with 3 nations coming to him, and the first thing he says is, you have power over the kingdoms. Do you realize that includes the kingdoms that are coming to fight against him? He acknowledges that God has power over that. Isn't that great for us to remember when we're talking about evangelism? When we look out into the world and we go, it just seems so overwhelming. It just seems like Satan is in control of so many different aspects of our life or the people's lives around us. But yet we have to remember that underlying, above all, under all, in all, through all, God has power over all of that. He is in control. And so that's one thing that Jehoshaphat prays for that we need to be remembering when we talk about evangelism. That it's not Satan in control out there. It is God in control. He has power over the situation. Now, the second thing he prays for, to me, it's a little scarier, okay? Because he reminds God of his promise. Okay, you remember when Solomon dedicated the temple 150, 200 years before this? He stood in the temple and he prayed to God. He said, God, if your people who call upon your name ever come to this place and pray to you for relief from pestilence or plague or armies or whatever it is, hear them. This is Solomon's prayer. The prophet answers Solomon and says, God said, I will hear them. You remember that? This is 150 years before this, before Jehoshaphat. So here Jehoshaphat comes to the temple, just the situation that Solomon was talking about. And he prays. He reminds God of his promise. That's powerful. God, you said you were going to hear us. It's time to hear us. Do we do that with evangelism? Did you know God has made promises to you regarding evangelism? Go out into all the world and I will be with you always. Do we remember that when we walk out that door? Or do we look around at the world and go, oh God, I'm so alone? What's going to happen? But he said, I will draw them to me. You just hold them up. Hold them up. We need to know the promises of God. We need to trust the promises of God. And we need to live the promises of God. He's made promises to us regarding evangelism. Okay. The third thing is he trusts God's providence. And to me, if this doesn't speak to us when it comes to evangelism, I don't know what does. Verse 12, our God, will you not judge them? For we have no power to face this vast army that is attacking us. We don't know what to do, but our eyes are on you. I think that's the way it is in a lot of places. When it comes to evangelism, sometimes we just don't feel like we know what to do. But we go to God. And we trust his promises. Our eyes are on him. So those are the three things that Jehoshaphat prays for in this section. And the prophet stands up and he gives a response. Okay? So step one was to develop in yourself an urgency for your salvation and for the salvation of others. That's praying about it. That's studying scripture about it. That's meditating on the fact that people are lost for eternity without the gospel of Jesus Christ. The second thing is to pray about it. To pray even these things and more. The third thing is to listen. In this situation, the prophet stands up and God has three responses. The first response is, the battle's not yours. People, as Christians, let's take a load off. The battle against Satan is not ours. Right? You don't have to fight it. Why? Oh, because God says the battle is mine. When Jesus died on the cross and rose from the grave, he fought and won the battle. We don't have to fight and win the battle over and over and over again. Jesus did that already. Well, to the people of Judah that were hearing this in the temple, this is great, right? We're all together in the temple. Everybody's together, got their families together, and they're praising God. It's wonderful. We're praying. The prophet is responding. It's like a spiritual high, right? And God is saying, hey, the battle's not yours, it's mine. Great, we'll stand here and we'll sing Kumbaya all day while you go fight the battle. Until he says that last thing. That most frustrating thing. Go march out to the battle. wait a minute, God. You said the battle was yours. You said you were going to fight it. We're going to stay here. You go take care of it. No. You have a role to play. And I have a role to play. We've got to march out to the battle. When it comes to evangelism, we can't just talk about it. We can't just hire an evangelism minister and say, okay, that's his job. No. It's our job. Still, yours and mine. We have a role to play. We have got to march out to the battle. Now, the people get together. I don't understand it, but they're excited about this. Okay? So they get together. Step 4 is going to be praise. So here's an actual picture of the army getting together to march out. They didn't have the cameras back then. Okay? They're gathered together. They're going to march out to the battle. And the people come up with a great idea. They say, hey, Jehoshaphat, let's put the singers in front. Corey, what's going to happen when you're in the front of the battle? He's the first one to get speared or shot with an arrow, right? But you're leading. Yeah, you're welcome. We're going to put the singers in the front. And they're going to march out. They're going to lead the procession. That just doesn't make sense to me at all. What are the singers going to do? Like, breathe COVID on. That's what they're going to do, right? So, they put the singers in the front. And this is what they sang. Simple song. Give thanks to the Lord, for his love endures forever. Now remember the situation. They didn't know what was going to happen. They didn't know if they were going to get killed. They just knew that God said the battle is his and we're going to have to march out there. But he didn't give them details on how it's going to work. But they're still singing his love endures forever. Because it doesn't matter what the outcome is. They're with their God, and his love endures forever. How important is that for us when it comes to evangelism? His love endures forever, no matter what it looks like out there. We know we are with our God, and his love endures forever. No matter what happens to us, it doesn't matter. We are with our God, and his love endures forever. Well, this is where it absolutely gets amazing. So, verse 22, listen to the way it's worded. As they began to sing and praise. Did you hear it? As they began to sing and praise, the Lord set ambushes against the men of Moab, Ammon, and Mount Seir, and they were defeated. They weren't defeated when Jehoshaphat gathered everybody at the temple. They weren't defeated when Jehoshaphat was praying in the temple. They weren't even defeated when God gave the responses in the temple. But when they marched out, praising God because his love endures forever, Satan was defeated. The armies were defeated. That's when the ambushes were set. We can sit here and we can talk about evangelism. We can pray about evangelism. We can sing songs about evangelism. But until we walk out praising God in our communities, let me back that up. Until you and I, let's make it more personal. Until you and I walk out into the community praising God because his love endures forever, ambushes won't be set. Lives won't be changed. Are you marching out to the battle? Or are you leaving it all here? I want to give you just a few recommendations on how to be involved in missions or evangelism here at this congregation. I'm not a member here. I think these are general enough that they will apply to you. And just go through them real quickly. Okay? One, I talked about these in Bible class, so it's redundant for some of them. Connect to a ministry. connect to Southern Africa Bible College, sign up for our email newsletters, sign up for information about any ministries that you support, any mission efforts that you support, talk to the mission committee, find out where the money is going, connect to a ministry, get more information, get to know the mission efforts in which this congregation is involved. Don't just say, hey, I'm going to write my check and I'm going to leave it up to whatever. Get involved personally to connect to a ministry. 2, pray for the ministry. You've been praying about it all month, right? Don't stop at the end of this month. Pray about it on a regular basis. Find a mission effort that you have a heart for and focus on it and pray about it. Maybe pray about a different mission effort every month. I don't know. Work something out, but be involved. Be part of the battle. So pray for a mission effort. Support the ministry or mission effort. Whether you're involved in a local outreach or a mission effort, support it. It's not just money. Most of our donations come from individuals, not congregations. So individuals are important to us. So get involved with a mission and support it. In addition to what you give to the congregation. Use your talent. Use your time. Find out what can be done to help those mission efforts and those ministries and get involved. Be part of the battle. 4th, introduce us to other congregations. If you find a mission effort or a ministry here at this congregation that you're excited about, share it with other people. Don't keep it to yourself. Get other people involved. And then finally, visit. So, that could mean asking questions when I'm here or when another missionary comes. Ask questions. Talk about it. Go see it firsthand. I can tell you all about the ministry. It won't mean anything to you until you actually see it. Okay? And firsthand. So, those are just some things to get you involved in mission efforts. Don't just say, hey, I'm putting my check in the church and that's it. Get involved in praising God in the community, both in the local evangelism and in the mission efforts. Are you marching to the battle? Are you participating? Are you sitting on the sidelines? My challenge to you, my encouragement to you, my hope for you, is that you develop an urgency for your salvation, salvation of others, that you pray about it, that you listen to God's response, to trust in his promises, and that you go, be part of the battle. Watch as God does immeasurably more than all we could ask or think, according to his power, that is at work within you. Within you. As an individual Christian in this congregation. May God bless you. If you have any needs this morning, maybe you want to give your life to Christ, to know a better day than today. Make that decision, to have that urgency about your salvation, that it is a life and death decision. Make that decision today. Maybe you need to give your life back to Christ. Don't wait. Don't wait. This is too important. Won't you come as we stand and sing?